which I will always remember where I was, but I will always remember where I was and what I was doing when Donald Trump confessed to the whole plot. Tim Miller.
You know, Nicole, sometimes it's one of those I feel like I'm taking crazy pills moments. Why aren't all the other shows beginning with this admission, right? Why wasn't this banner front page news on the front page of all of our national outlets this morning? I think what's so refreshing about the Kinzinger and Cheney comments, because they're saying what all of us see to be true with our eyes, right? That this is absolutely insane, unconscionable, unprecedented. The former president of the United States admitted in a statement that he wanted to overturn a free and fair democratic election to keep himself in power, that he tried to do it, that there was a plot to do it, and that his only disappointment was that it didn't work. This would have been unimaginable if if we all gotten together, 8 years ago to discuss our worst case fears about the United States and the Republic. Like, the idea that a president would admit that they tried to steal an election it would have been so far down the long tail, it wouldn't have even crossed our minds. And yet he admits it yesterday. And it does seem like, with a few exceptions, a lot of folks just are going on as business as usual. The Republican Party, at the top of that list. And this guy had a rally over the course of the weekend that had the governor of Texas, the lieutenant governor of Texas, supposed good Republicans like Dan Crenshaw, who recently got press for, calling out the grifters in his party. But then he shows up to the King Grifters rally in Texas when they know that it's going to be an insurrectionist incitement, because that's all he talks about. All of them just want this to go away. And so thank goodness that, there are Cheney and Kinzinger on that committee, and that there is, continued investigation into all of this. But I would hope that we'd have a little bit more outrage today than it seems like we do. Well,
what's so clear to me, Liz Cheney talks of Trumpism as the threat that it is to the homeland, on an evidence-based manner. She's the only one that listens to Trump appointee Christopher Wray when he testifies that 1/6 was indeed domestic terrorism. Ted Cruz believed that for a while, I think, before he finally got that booking on the 8 p.m. hour at Fox. And then she uses the language of recidivism, because she sums up her analysis of his statement with this: he'd do it all again if given the chance. He'd do it all again if given the chance. I think the only tweak there is he's doing it all again because Republicans are giving him a chance. And I wonder, Betsy Woodruff Swan, what you think it says about the committee that he is so emboldened.
It certainly shows that the former president is frustrated and unnerved about the work this committee is doing. And it points to something that I've heard from multiple congressional Republican sources, which is that they're having some real buyer's remorse about the way that they treated the creation of Capitol Hill's investigation into the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The fact that McCarthy pulled all the Republicans off that committee so that the only Republicans on it now are Republicans who are opposed to Trump, that dramatically reduced the visibility that the vast majority of congressional Republicans had into the work that the committee was doing. And on top of that, the fact that they rejected the deal that Speaker Pelosi and Congressman Katko worked out for a probe that already would have ended a month ago. In retrospect, those are something those facts are making some Republicans feel a little uncomfortable about the way that this investigation is going. Not just Trump, but also Trump's allies on Capitol Hill are seeing it increasingly as more and more of a problem. One document that the Select Committee has obtained, which I obtained as well, is an early draft of a speech that then President Trump delivered on January 7th, the day after the attack. The draft of that speech was titled Remarks on National Healing. And there couldn't be a bigger difference between that draft speech that Trump ultimately delivered on January 7th and the things that he's saying now. On January 7th, and in that draft, Trump said he disavowed the people who attacked the Capitol. He said there would be a new administration. He took a conciliatory tone. Right now, literally everything he's saying is the polar opposite of what he said the day after the attack. And it just shows the chasms between where people in the Trump administration, where some of the folks close to the president were at on January 7th, frankly, where many Republican leaders were at on January 7th, versus where Trump and most of the Republican Party or many of his Republican allies are at right now. The change has just been immense.
Claire, I appreciate Tim's comments, but I haven't seen anything else today, so I'm surprised to hear that this isn't blaring news. But I think what Liz and Kinzinger do to the rest of the Republicans is make abundantly clear that they, too, will be on record as supporting someone who has stated his second presidency agenda. It will include pardoning the rioters, even those charged with seditious conspiracy. It includes more incitement of more political violence. And it includes winning elections through theft. That's the platform. That's why he doesn't want the Electoral Count Act to pass. And it threatens him because it has some bipartisan support. Let me show you what Susan Collins said about the potential for supporting the insurrectionist in chief again in the future.
Can you imagine any circumstances where you could support his election in 2024?
Well, we're a long ways from 2024, but let me say this. I do not think that President Trump should have made that pledge to do pardons. We should let the judicial process proceed.
You say we're a long way away from...
January 6th was a dark day in our history.
It was, and you voted to convict President Trump as well. Why can't you rule out supporting him in 2024?
Well, certainly it's not likely, given the many other qualified candidates that we have that have expressed interest in running. So it's very unlikely.
So what, put her down as a TBD? She can check. You can check and see if any of those other qualified people can get within striking to Trump towers. He's atop the polls. And Susan Collins is why Donald Trump remains a threat. A Republican Party that cannot deal with the cancer, not just in the Republican Party, but to our democracy, is the reason we have Trumpism.
Well, I got to tell you the truth. The last person I would probably pick on in that regard is Susan, because at least she voted to impeach him, to convict him on the impeachment. And there are a whole lot of other Republicans that deserve our disgust over their failure to call out this guy and the things he says and the things he does. And as a quick aside, before I make the point I want to make, I want to congratulate Tim for not beginning his talk today with a taunt about his team beating the Chiefs yesterday. Congratulations to the Bengals, Tim. Congratulations to a team that was strong when they had to be, and I wish them the best of luck going forward. Now, the point I want to make about the January 6th committee is this. Here's their most important job right now. It's communicating to the people in America that need to hear the evidence. They have gathered a lot of evidence at this point. They've won the court battles. They have got so much damning evidence about what Trump did and failed to do that the people who decide elections, it would impact them. How do we get that information to those Americans? Because the Trump supporters are all going to be calcified around certain media outlets. And frankly, the many of us who could never consider Donald Trump for anything are convinced that he is a very bad guy for the United States of America. It is the people who voted for Barack Obama and Donald Trump. It is the people who are kind of abandoning Trump right now. His numbers have shrunk in recent polling in terms of people considering themselves Trump Republicans versus Republican Party Republicans. So I think he's going to have a really intense group of supporters. But there's a lot of people out there that need to hear these facts in a straightforward way. And that's what the committee should be focusing on, cleanly, clearly, and to the right people that need to hear it, instead of maybe some of the people who've completely made up their minds already and aren't going to let the facts interfere.